Talking about honesty again, a tweet that I noticed the other day, well actually not just I noticed, it's actually got, listen to this, 9,533 likes for George Bennett for Jumbo-Visma, lovely lad, said, on another note, I rode a few hundred metres with Geraint Thomas and it was sad to see some absolute W's, bleep, booing from the side of the road. If you're not here to support the riders, then stay at home. And that's in reference to riding up the Tourmalet. It was in the last K that Geraint got dropped. George Bennett had just done his turn and ended up riding for a few hundred metres with Geraint, and obviously a lot of abuse at the side of the road. So Bennett is one of the riders. Firstly, he's a fantastic rider. Secondly,
Says it out.
He's honest. He does wear his heart on his sleeve, doesn't he?
He's great, George. He's absolutely superb. It's a shame more riders aren't like him because he says it how it is. He says it in the moment, and he's absolutely right what he says. I mean, it's unfortunate. We kind of... There is the argument that maybe we're too soft in cycling and people have the right to have allegiances and be tribal to who they support, especially if you're French and you support in the likes of Alaphilippe and Pinot. This is a French race. They can get very patriotic towards their race. Yeah. We've seen that in the past. They don't like the dominance of other teams. I mean, we've seen it the last few years with Chris Froome. Someone tried to push him on Alpe d'Huez last year. He had Urine disgustingly thrown over him a few years ago. They don't like it. And I like to categorise and say that they are French people doing it because, it takes all breeds to be... And that's not true of all French people, by the way. We've met some lovely people along the way that support this race and support the likes of Geraint Thomas. But... I think being supportive and being tribal is a good thing, but when that disrupts or starts to impact on a rider who's actually only trying to do their job, I think that's when it when it becomes out of order, really, because Geraint is doing his best there. He's just trying as hard as the last guy climbing up the climb, and he doesn't deserve to have the proximity of the privilege that they have of how close they can get to the riders, abused and done that, because obviously it happens in football when players are taking corners and stuff, but they do have a physical barrier of the end of the terraces and stewards and police stood there. The riders don't have that. There's nothing that stops one idiot crossing that line and it becoming violent.
Yeah, I mean, Puy de Dôme, 1975, Merckx punched in the side. I mean, that's probably another good example.
Last year with Froome.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. We talk about the fans on this race. I mean, you can't deny. And it's an issue that we've talked about. We'll always talk about ad infinitum, safety of riders, the beauty of all the Grand Tours. The beauty of cycling is the fact that you can get up close. And as you said, that key word that you just used, Brad, was a privilege.
It is a privilege.
It is. You're riding against the best riders in the world, but all it takes is a couple of beers, a bit of partisan, being a little bit over partisan, and then you're shouting something in somebody's ear. I mean, you've been there, you've done it. What is it? I mean, the Tourmalet in particular, what is it like? I mean, from riding along and having somebody running alongside and screaming in your ear?
I mean, there's particular footage I remember on YouTube, actually. There's a shot of me pushing someone out the way who was running next to me, and it was too much at that moment. I'm there in the job that I've trained all year for, 2 or 3K from the summit, trying to get back to the group of Andy Schleck and Contador and Armstrong. And it was just unwelcomed at that moment. And maybe stupid of me to lash out and push this guy in the ditch. But, you don't want any distractions at that point. Cheer, boo, whatever you want to do. But once it starts impacting on what you're trying to do, I think no one would expect to be in their work environment and have someone come at them to the proximity they do and expect to not have a reaction. And I think, I particularly remember that Ventoux stage more than anything, really, because the hostility going up that climb, particularly towards Lance Armstrong, was scary at times, I have to say. Spanish supporters were spitting at Lance because of the rivalry he had with Contador that year, and it was borderline to spilling over into something quite nasty, really.
Yeah.
And no one really deserves that. Whatever your kind of opinion of Lance Armstrong, anything like that, of course, everyone knows what he's done and everyone has an opinion on it. But at that moment in time, when they're in the race, they have the right to be in that race unless other people decide otherwise.